Ahora empieza su programa, el show del Dr. Roy Aranda. Temas sobre los efectos que tiene la separación de los niños de sus padres, traumas que afrontan los indocumentados, violencia doméstica, el porqué de la violencia en las escuelas. Llámanos en vivo al 1-888-900-2811, extensión 6, y haz tus preguntas al aire. ¡Comenzamos!
Buenas noches, queridos televidentes y fanáticos del show famoso Tribuna TV. Good evening, my dear Tribuna TV viewers. Welcome to another year. Bienvenidos a otro año. We're in 2020. Certainly, let's hope for wonderful, or anyway, let's hope for better things for 2020. Esperemos que el año 2020 sea mejor para toditos, para los Estados Unidos, todos los televidentes, and all of you. Just quickly, I did want to mention that last two shows, los shows del año de diciembre del año pasado, focused on holiday blues, la depresión navideña, and I did want to mention that, obviously we're beyond that now, but for those viewers who missed it and perhaps are still somewhat suffering from holiday depression or anxieties or financial worries or some of the themes that were developed during the shows, I encourage you to look at the shows, reach out to the experts who I had on the shows. We focused on children and adults. And you're certainly welcome to contact me, contact the experts, or reach out to New York State Psychological Association, your state psychological associations, or the American Psychological Association. So that said, bienvenidos a otro año. Welcome to another year. We have a very interesting show today. Tenemos un show de mucha importancia because it focuses on chronic pain. And we'll get into some of the statistics, as I typically do, those who watch the show. We like to develop the theme and give definitions and context. What are the kinds of symptoms, and in what areas are we affected by a particular problem, in this case, chronic pain. What are the numbers? You will be amazed, perhaps shocked, to see the huge impact that chronic pain has on our society. And as a guest, I have my dear friend who was he's a repeat guest. Like we see repeat guests on other TV shows, so I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to have some repeat guests, especially when they are of excellent quality, like my good friend Dr. Peter Kanaris, who's sitting right here. Bienvenido, Dr. Kanaris. Welcome. Gracias. I'll give a formal introduction, but some of you may already have recalled him. He was previously a guest focusing on workers' compensation and also on issues pertaining to what was it, virtual infidelity?
Yes, infidelity in the digital age.
Okay, digital age. There you go. We have those shows also recorded. This I wanted to welcome to the show Oscar. Feliz Año Nuevo. Yeah. He's our producer, and he's here. I did want to tell the viewers the show is being recorded. It'll be accessible on YouTube and subsequently on Tribuna TV's website and also on Facebook. So that said, and with that, no. I did want to make one more mention, a shout out. Couple of things. Forthcoming shows. We will have shows about hate crime coming very, very soon. Regrettably, we've seen horrific events affecting Jewish synagogues, and we've also had many other individuals of different cultures, ethnic cultures, different races, different religions targeted. The numbers are becoming higher and higher, and it's something that is so sadly shocking, what happened over the holidays, that I think it would be very good to have a show on hate crimes and also on talking about coping with violence. What are the kinds of things viewers in general can do to make them safer in violence. Also, we are an increasingly aging society, so the needs of the elderly will be the focus of one of our shows as well. And I wanted to mention my deep sorrow to my viewers who are from Puerto Rico or have family in Puerto Rico. My own wife, Irma, is Boricua. She is Puerto Rican. The devastation on the island with the multiple earthquakes and shortage of power and problems with water and other amenities. It's so horrific, and we already witnessed the devastation from Hurricane Maria, and my heart goes out to all of you. And I did want to mention that you're in my prayers and my thoughts and prayers, and that also I think it'll be very timely to have another program on coping with traumatic events. What are the kinds of things that people can do cope with traumatic events? For those viewers who care to do so and are able to make donations, please do so through reputable organizations. Red Cross is certainly a very good starting place. So that said, let me start with the show that we're doing today. The show is called You're in Pain, but You Look So Good, The Many Faces and Dilemmas of Chronic Pain. So that's a title, actually, that Dr. Peter came up with. He's very good with the titles. In Spanish, for the viewers who speak Spanish fluently, the show is called Tienes Dolor, Pero Te Ves Tan Bien. Las muchas caras y dilemas del dolor crónico. So that's the focus of the show for today. And I did want to give you a bit of an idea of my inspiration for the show today. Then we'll talk about what are the kinds of things this show will cover today, and then we'll get into the substance of the show. Don Oscar, ¿me puedes poner el primer slide? Let's show me slide number 1. The inspiration for the show. I've been touched by chronic pain in my personal and professional lives for many decades. In my private practice as a psychologist, I've worked with thousands of patients over the years in collaboration with many other disciplines, so discipline oriented, specializing in healthcare and pain management to alleviate their pain, consequences of pain in their lives, and to restore functionality as much as possible. So I'm dedicating this show for those who I hope to empower and educate viewers who are impacted by the many adverse consequences of chronic pain. So that's the inspiration for the show. The show today will cover the following. Slide 2. We're going to be talking about what chronic pain means. How is it different than acute pain? What are the statistics? How prevalent is chronic pain? You will be shocked to see the numbers. What causes chronic pain? What are the kinds of things that result in chronic pain? What are the symptoms of chronic pain? Things like depression, achiness, difficulty sleeping. We'll go over some of these things. How does chronic pain affect us? How does it impact our lives? How does it impact us socially, financially, in school, at work? What are the effects to us personally in our lives? How can we measure chronic pain? You have chronic pain, you complain about pain. How do you know how much pain you have? How do you report that to a doctor or to a psychologist? Treatment methods. What are the kinds of strategies and treatment approaches that are available to treat people who are suffering from chronic pain? We're going to have a host of recommendations. I think that's probably one of the most important parts of the show, is giving the recommendations for the viewers so that you can take that away with you. And it's a good learning, educational tool, and something that hopefully will empower you. And we'll end up, as we always do, with resources. What are some of the contact? What are some of the agencies that you can contact, and including Dr. Peter Kanaris. Okay, so that said, por favor, Oscar, slide 3. Let's talk about what chronic pain is. So. Everybody has pain. Nobody escapes pain. Nobody's pain-free. Acute pain lasts for a short time. Chronic pain persists, usually lasts longer than 6 months. I've seen different definitions, Peter. I've seen some people say 4 months, some people more than 6 weeks. I prefer the 6 months. I think that's really probably a good ballpark amount of time. Can last for years, and in some instances, as the pain gets worse, it can wax and wane. You can have relative periods of relief. It can come back. It can endure a lifetime, and there are people out there who are suffering from pain, and it just doesn't go away. It's there chronically. There are biochemical factors. I just wanted to give you an idea. I didn't want to make the show overly complicated, but I didn't want to give you an idea that there are all of these chemical agents, biochemical processes that are involved in pain. So it's not just something that's mental. I mean, we do have mental consequences and reactions to pain, but pain is something that exists physically inside of our body. So for those of you, by the way, who want to review the show later when it's recorded, you can freeze any frame that you want and print out all of the slides and get the information for you. Okay, so what is that kind of slide? Peter, anything to add to chronic pain, acute pain?
No,
in particular,
essentially,
before we get to statistics?
Essentially, as you said, Roy, it is a pain that persists. We all experience pain at various times acutely, and it could be quite severe, but the distinction is it doesn't last. With chronic pain, it's something that persists and you could feel stuck with for a significant period of time, even for months, for years.
So it's not necessarily the degree of severity of the pain that defines whether it's acute or chronic.
Correct.
It's amount of time.
Yes.
So you could have, if somebody immediately fractures their arm and experiences acute pain, that acute pain on a scale of, say, 0 to 10, where 10 is like you're about to be run over by a tractor trailer, is that bad, you might be feeling pain in the range of 9.
Yes.
Because it's so incredibly painful, especially bone.
Yes.
Okay? Or injury to a tooth. These are parts that are extremely painful when injured. So it could be severe pain, but you recovered, it's set, you take some medications, you get over it. Maybe the fracture heals in a matter of weeks. You have hard cast. Hard cast is removed, you go back to functionality.
Another way I might put it is that acute pain ends. Chronic pain seems like it never does.
Right. And chronic pain persists beyond acute pain. So it's usually something that starts with acute and then just continues to extend. But you have people with back problems, and maybe they have had injections or physical therapy or acupuncture, occupational therapy. They've had aquatherapy. We'll talk about these kinds of treatments later on. But they may have had various procedures, including surgery, and the pain is better, but it's still there.
Yes.
So it might be 3, 4, 5. It's still there. It just does not go away. So it's not so much the degree of the pain as it is the longevity of the pain.
Correct.
So let's look at some of the statistics. Por favor, Oscar, slide 4. I just want to show you what we're talking about in terms of the sheer number of people who are affected. 1 in 5 suffer from moderate to severe chronic pain. So it's obviously going to be higher than that if you're looking at milder levels of chronic pain. This is 1 in 5, moderate to severe, okay? More people suffer from chronic pain than cancer, heart disease, and diabetes put together. Chronic pain yearly affects approximately 100 million adults, costs $560 to approximately $635 billion in terms of medical treatment costs, loss of productivity. The source here is the American Academy of Pain Medicine. I will give you a reference of viewers so that you can contact them if need be after the show. We're seeing more than 3 million cases in the United States per year. Women seem to be affected more than men, but the difference doesn't seem to be huge. It's just a something that statistically I thought I'd throw out there. Risk factors. What are some reasons why we might be seeing chronic pain? Arthritis. That's a real biggie. Depression affecting neurological pathways. Smoking. Obesity and age, over the age of 65. All right, so we're going to get now into anything to add to the numbers?
Well, I would say also some of the health conditions that are contributed to by lifestyle, such as diabetes, you mentioned the obesity, heart disease. These are various conditions that can lead to neuropathy, chronic pain conditions.
Yeah. I mean, it's a breakdown. I mean, it's a breakdown of bodily functioning. All right, let's look at some of the conditions that cause chronic pain. Slide 5, 5, por favor. Okay, we're looking at arthritis. Now, people, they use the word arthritis very loosely. There's different kinds of arthritis. There's osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. They're not identical. They tend to affect the joints. You see things like inflammation, swelling, affects mobility. It makes it very difficult for people to go around tending to their activities of daily living. Back pain. That's one of the biggest complaints that I see. Back pain, headaches, and neck pain. Muscle strains and sprains. Repetitive stress injuries from people who are doing occupational work over and over and over and over, work in a factory, packaging, carrying, lifting, bending, this repetitive motions over and over again. Fibromyalgia, which is a neurological condition that causes muscle pain. Nerve damage, which is what you were talking about, neuropathy. Fractures, slips, falls, accidental tripping, something landing on top of you, car accidents, other kinds of occupational injuries. Cancer, abdominal pain. There are many reasons for abdominal pain. It can be acid reflux, ulcers, inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, endometriosis, many reasons. Many of my patients complain of gastric problems and abdominal pain. Also, let me mention that many of the patients who are taking medication, and some of them are taking 2, 3, 4, 5 medications, some of the medication very high doses or strong medications, including opioids, also will affect they have side effects, including some of these abdominal distress kinds of symptoms, not being able to go to the bathroom, a host of other things, headaches, blurry vision, many kinds of symptoms, and surgery. Surgery can cause chronic pain. So, Peter, please, give us your expertise on some of these areas.
I really think in what you're describing, pain, and particular chronic pain, is the great human denominator. I think next to hunger, that so many people suffer from, as far as basic physical kinds of phenomena, pain is probably the most common. It binds us together as human beings. So many people suffer from it. As you read, the host of conditions, almost anything that makes you ill or that injures you will have some degree of pain associated to it, and in some instances this becomes chronic over a long period of time. It could be mild, it could be more severe, but some element of the presence of pain is there.
And as you can see from the statistics, where we're talking over 600 billion. Obviously, it's more than a cottage industry. I mean, this is like a big major areas of concern in terms of insurance factors. What kinds of insurance you have? What will the insurance cover? What are the deductibles? Will you, in fact, be able to have treatment provided for your case for your pain? If so, when? Is it timely? Do you get denials? What do you do about the denials? these are some things.
Additionally, now, as most people know, the epidemic problem of opioid overprescription and overuse has now, I think, created an additional problem of the addiction, but also, I think, an unintended consequence of addressing the opioid abuse problem has been pulling back on the use of opioids for legitimate pain conditions.
Right. It's a form of undertreatment now. So you're having many patients who are, in my office, I see patients who suffer from chronic pain, and many of them are almost driven to tears. They're hobbling, they limp, they use canes and or other assistive devices, and they are like livid that medications that they need are being delayed, not prescribed, denied. And there's, some of the procedures, and we've talked about that in other shows, workers' compensation, what other insurance companies do when they review whether or not they do quality assurance reviews and so forth. And there's denials. It makes it very difficult. Some of the carriers now are using their drug formularies, and this is like a Bible of all of the medications that are permissible to that carrier. Mm-hmm. And if a doctor or a patient is taking medications, they're going to look at what are the medications that are in that drug formulary. And if any of them are not in the drug formulary, they're going to be denied. Yeah. So then it's up to the doctor to see if there's an alternative type of medication that he or she can prescribe, and then see whether or not there's some ability to provide relief to the patient.
I think, in effect, one thing that's happened, again, as an unintended consequence, is that because of the problem with opioids, they've been pulled back so far so that when they could be used properly and to address chronic pain conditions, now they're not always available. Yeah. So it puts the onus on really leaning on and developing other methods of treatment that can fill that gap of what's happened.
Also, one of the problems, and this is something that's been addressed in, or being looked at and pushed legislatively in Washington, D.C., the rising costs of medications. The price of medications is becoming astronomical. Yes. So an insurance company is getting like a bill, and the bill is like ridiculously high. Yeah. The inclination is to begin to cut back or to deny, or to request reliance on generic drugs, which may not have the same effect. Yeah. So how does chronic pain affect us? Let's look at what some of the typical symptoms are. Slide 6, por favor. So I don't pretend that this is a list that covers every imaginable symptom that there is, but I think that this is a fairly comprehensive listing of most symptoms that we're likely to experience or see when we're working with or talking about chronic pain. Mood changes, okay? The mood changes can be, depression, anxiety, anger, mood, something affecting your emotions, emotional changes.
Irritability.
Loss of appetite, feeling tired, fatigue, run down, feeling weak, lack of energy. You just like run out of like gas. I mean, I have patients complain they can't do more than one walk. Increased irritability, increased feelings of guilt. Why guilt? They may feel guilty they're not able to work, they're not working as effectively, they're not contributing to the household as much as possible, they're not the person they used to be, they can't lift their children. If there's an adult with a young child, they can't lift the child, they can't take the child out to play, the child cries, they feel badass parents that they're not being able to do to their child what they would like to do. So guilt feelings, they're not contributing in a way.
And with the guilt, going back to the title of today's show, "Oh, but you look so good," very often, unless the person suffering from chronic pain...
Well, let's take out a slide.
suffering from chronic pain is appearance has changed. If it hasn't, if they're able to get themselves together and function and look fairly good, people often don't get it. They don't understand what living with chronic pain is like because it's not necessarily apparent.
Well, this is where the guilt is. This is
Yes.
where, well, not all forms of guilt, but
Yes.
this is where a chunk of the guilt comes in.
Yeah.
Because somebody goes back to work after having been ill, for instance, and having experienced pain, and like, well, you had a great vacation. You look fine. What's wrong with you?
You look fine. Why can't you do what you've
They go to
always
the
done?
doctor. Well, you got a head, 2 legs, 2 arms.
Yes.
What more do you
Yes.
want? You look fine. And then, well, gee, if I look so good from the outside, but people really don't know. Many of my patients complain after negative independent medical examinations. There's nothing independent about them. We've talked about that before. These are evaluations that are done by professionals that are used by the insurance company. And very often there'll be either a denial of benefits or that treatment isn't necessary, or minimization. So somebody who may be severely depressed following an independent medical examination may come out with a mild depression. There'll be some way to lessen the burden on the insurance company. And in many instances, I see my patients, and I'm guessing that you probably do as well, where they will say, but the doctor's not inside me. How do they know what I'm feeling? They didn't ask me this. They didn't ask me that. They don't know me on the inside. And it's true. And this is part of that system problem that is the green stuff, the money, that dominates so much of what's happening in the industry, unfortunately. Yeah. Just really to play devil's advocate also, because it's not always that that people are necessarily truthful, but we do have exaggerations. There are claims that are that are exaggerated. There are people that basically do try to get a little bit more out of the system, a secondary gain, or they don't want to go back to work. They want to stay out of work. So in all fairness, you do have to take into consideration that there is a potential for abuse. This is the art of having an expert doing an evaluation that's really a thorough, comprehensive evaluation, looking at all relevant documents, and if not available, asking for them. Right. Request the documents. Yes. You don't have to come up with a decision. You can say, I'm unable to arrive at an opinion. Please provide the documents. We left out in the slide, but loss of sexual desire, and probably the worst one, thoughts of harming oneself. We've talked about the importance of suicidal thoughts. On other shows, I'll re-emphasize it again. You have to take it seriously. You can't ignore it. You don't walk away from it. You don't pretend you didn't hear it. And you don't just assume it's going to go away by itself and get better and be better. And
the suicidal thought very often is a last desperation, not because the person very often wants to die or wants to kill themselves. They want the pain to stop. They can no longer feel that they can bear the pain, and they come up with the ultimate solution is, I have to stop it this way.
It's a cry for help.
Absolutely.
In some instances.
Yeah.
I know that one of your areas of specialization is dealing with loss of sexuality.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that I did put under the symptoms.
Yes.
You care to share something about that?
Yeah, that is an area that is very often not considered in the chronic pain patient, and even in the evaluations that we were talking about before. One of the things that happens is when a person is in chronic pain, their desire for sex is automatically shut down. The pain obliterates it. It shuts that part of the psyche down, and they no longer have that desire. Even if they should have a desire, very often sexual behavior then exacerbates the pain. So in effect, it's punishing for being sexual. So we'll go further in the slides, but the implications of that now are very often for the love relationship, the marital relationship begins to suffer because now, in addition to pain dominating life, it begins to separate the couple from each other.
But that also adds that also adds to the guilt.
That additionally adds to the guilt.
At least within a relationship.
Another layer. Another layer.
Guilt and
I'm not fulfilling my part of a relationship.
And suspicion.
Yes, it can be.
Are you looking elsewhere?
Yes.
If you're not interested in me, is there something else that you're doing?
Or at the very least, do you not find me attractive anymore?
Yeah. Couldn't it also? Because I know that putting pain aside, I know that in regular cases of psychotherapy and things like that, where there's trouble in the relationship, and a male patient may be suffering, say, from premature ejaculation, so that the thought of being less potent or being less of a man brought into the bedroom will affect that particular patient. And in fact, you have this third observer now. There's an observer over you saying, well, I'm not functioning well.
Yes.
The little you standing over you is telling you I'm not doing well.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, in pain, would that also occur?
Particularly for a man, the male ego tends to be very fragile, and that sense of I am not a man anymore. And then secondarily, what you often will find is that person pulling back and not participating anymore in the marriage, in the family life, self-isolating. It's almost like I don't respect myself anymore. I'm not fulfilling who I should be, so I want to disappear. And one way to disappear is just leave me alone, I'll be on my own. There's a withdrawal in that regard. And now, very often the partner who might be distressed about the lack of sexual relationship is actually more distressed by the partner pulling away.
A complete alienation.
A complete alienation. And this becomes, for relationships, Roy, what I tend to find is, if there is a chronic pain condition, you hope that the basis of the relationship is very strong and that it's a healthy relationship, because you will find under those conditions, sometimes with help, people pulling together and surviving together. If there are cracks or significant flaws in the relationship, the stress of the chronic pain condition, the loss of intimacy, and everything else that comes along with it very often destroys the relationship.
You also see avoidance becomes reinforced, so it's easier to say, why bother?
Yes.
So after a while, it's like you're avoiding it. And similarly, it's not just avoidance within a sexual arena, but it can be avoidance of anything else, going out, taking the kids out, going to a restaurant, going to a movie,
participating.
And maybe coming up also with excuses why.
Yes.
So there's got to be a reason for it. I'm in pain, I don't feel well would be an excuse. We don't have enough money to do it. It's an excuse. I often see there's not enough money.
Yeah.
Can't do it. As if every outing requires financial expenditure. There's things you can do. Taking your child to a park to run around and play on the swings doesn't require money, and maybe an expenditure of an ice cream or a soda or something that it's within. If you're going to eat anyway that day, obviously you're able to do that.
But those are all rational thoughts and rational solutions that very often the chronic pain patient does not consider without some help.
And that's part of the treatment that we'll be focusing on a little bit. Related to this, Oscar, por favor, slide 7. How does chronic pain affect us? We saw the symptoms now in 6. What effect does we have? We've already been broaching a little bit about the withdrawal, the isolation, things like that. Chronic pain affects physical, which is very logical, but I wanted to throw in emotional well-being. I want you to be aware of it. and social life. As we've mentioned, if you're withdrawing from your family, obviously your social life is affected. If you're withdrawing from friends and at work, that's affecting other aspects of your life as well. Some of the symptoms and disorders, we have some actually formal anxiety disorders and depression disorders. By formal, I mean, people may feel sad, they may feel depressed, they may feel nervous and anxious, moody and irritable, and it's not necessarily something that qualifies for what is something that a formal diagnosis would be made by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But in some cases that are more serious, you would have formal anxiety, depression, diagnoses. With sleep disorders, it's very, very common to have disturbed sleep. Patients can't fall asleep because of pain, not only pain, but worrisome thoughts. They will wake up during the night 1, 2, 3, 4 times. They have disrupted sleep. They do not have restorative sleep, a sleep that's meant to help your body. We all need approximately 8 hours of good sleep to function. So this is restorative sleep when you get that. You don't have that. Some of the sleep disorders also, patients will awaken because of pain, because of nightmares, bad dreams. They can't find a comfortable position, but then also they're having dreams that may have some relationship to an accident or to whatever caused.
Yeah, but particularly if the pain was trauma-based.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if not, it could be other things like seeing a loved one who passed, dreams of your mother or father who are no longer here. Substance use disorders, drug or alcohol abuse, and increased self-medication we were talking about. Obviously, it's more problematic if you're looking at something that's opioids, but it's not necessarily just opioids. It could be increased use and reliance of medication and combination of other drugs. Also, in my practice, where I'm working with many Hispanos, that come from many different countries, many different locations, and are not necessarily getting prescribed medication here in the United States, they will get medication sent to them by family members, and or there's a sharing of medication from other family members or friends who have the medication, and that's something that's potentially very dangerous because you don't have an MD, you don't have a medical doctor supervising that, and you could be putting your physical health at risk as well as your emotional well-being at risk. Marital family problems, we touched upon this. Problems at work, inability to work. Missing out at work, showing up late, having to leave early, taking longer breaks, getting fired, getting negative reviews, loss of employment. These are some of the consequences of pain. Peter, anything to add? What is that kind of slide?
If I might just touch upon depression that you had mentioned, there's something that we sometimes call the pain-depression cycle. And that's where, with chronic pain, as it wears you down, physically and emotionally, it creates, understandably, depression. As you begin to fall into depression, it actually exacerbates the pain. So you get this cycle of going round and round where the pain causes a depression, the depression exacerbates the pain, and it could eventually be a trap that locks the person into
And there could be a thought there.
Oh, indeed.
There's a thought like, oh my God, I'm getting worse. It's not getting better. The doctor told me this would help. It's not helping. Oh, I'm starting to feel heart palpitations too. I didn't have that before. Now I'm having heart palpitations. Now I'm having respiratory distress. I'm probably going to die or have a heart attack. I feel horrible for this, and it becomes like this.
It's been called catastrophizing.
Right. It's like going down the drain.
Yes. There was a particular study that was done of great interest with patients that suffered from chronic back pain and depression that were treated with, of all things, Tylenol, heavy doses of Tylenol and another drug called tramadol. And what they found was a significant part of that group impaired in the reduction of pain, but guess what? Their depression was also ameliorated. So they travel, pain and depression travel the same highway. Neurologically, they travel the same road, okay? Dealing with it is a little tougher because they're on the superhighway. The way we have to deal with it sometimes seems like using a dirt road, but we could plow that road, and there are ways of intervening.
Baby steps, because if as the pain decreases a little bit, the patient who's been chronically complaining of chronic pain and not well, you say, well, whoa, wait a second. You just told me that it got a little bit better. That's really, really good. Let's talk about that, because that's a positive direction rather than let's keep backtracking, let's keep focusing and dwelling on the negative, the catastrophizing.
Which also, what you're saying, Roy, suggests, and I think we'll be getting to it, is the importance of, if you're suffering from chronic pain, to scale the pain.
You have to monitor it, self-monitor.
Well, very often people, are you in pain or you're not? They look at it as an all or none kind of phenomena. Breaking that down, say 1 to 10, where 1 would be the mildest pain and 10 the most severe, allows the patient to be able to see and say, you know what, I was at a 9 yesterday. Am I still in pain? I'm in pain, but today I could say it's a 7. And they begin to see that all the pain is not always exactly the same. It can modulate, and it can be modified.
Okay. Well, let's talk about how we talk about pain. How, in fact, do we express our pain complaints to another person? Por favor, Oscar, slide 8. Pain assessment. I'm just going to give you at the top some descriptive terms. We really don't want to get into a belabored definition of every term. Dull ache, it's throbbing, it's a burning sensation, shooting pain. I have patients often telling me they have back pain and it shoots down the right leg. Now it's shooting down more the left leg. It used to be the right leg. Now it's the left leg. It's more the right leg than the left leg. Squeezing, like I feel like somebody's like squeezing me. A stinging sensation, which is like quick, like a very quick pricking type of a sensation. General soreness, like an achiness. Stiffness. I get this a lot with my patients who are suffering from arthritis. They are stiff and just achy, their mobility is impaired. Pain scales, these are very simple. I do want to mention to the to the viewers that professionals will use instruments that are fairly sophisticated. This is something. These 2 pain scales are generally suitable for the population at large. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. But there are far more sophisticated pain measurement tools that psychologists and other mental health and pain professionals will use. But this pain scale, and we were mentioning earlier, pain scale of 0 to 10. You can see 10 at the far right, worst possible pain. 0 is no pain at all. So I don't really think too many people are walking around with 0s. But maybe 1s. I don't know about the 0.
Not over the age of 50.
But like basically, if you look at this, moderate is like in the area of 5. Patients, I have my patients who are injury patients. They're functional more or less at a level of 4-ish, 5-ish, 6-ish. Mm-hmm. These are typical complaints. They're far more limited when it starts reaching 7, 8, and they're bedridden by the time it's 9. Mm-hmm. 10, it's like, really, oh my God, like this is the worst pain I've ever had. I do not see that often, even though I have patients who are experiencing horrible pain. The one below that is really the same thing, but it's faces. This is great to use with kids. It's also fine to use with adults who may be in some way language limited or with reading, writing limited, because the faces, the appearance of the faces gives you an idea of how much pain. So big smiling to the left and big frown and tears to the right with the 10. A pain diary. Pain diary is where you write down, I'll give you an example briefly. Somebody suffers from headaches. Okay, write down when you have your headache in a headache diary. Okay, you can do this in a little booklet. I make booklets available to my patients. So you write down when you have the headache, what time do you have the headache, how long does the headache last, was it half an hour, was it 3 hours, and what was the intensity, was it a 5, a 6, a 7, or an 8. You do this. You do this for a month, you do it for the next month, and with treatment, over time, with treatment, you're going to be looking for an increase in the frequency, fewer headaches, that the headaches last less time, briefer duration, and less incapacitating. If you have that, less frequency, less duration, and less incapacitated, you can say you are getting better. This would be a way of measuring not only your pain, but improvement. There are pain disorders in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, the 5th edition. I was mentioning that we have formal depression and anxiety disorders. We also have formal pain disorders based on somatic symptoms and related disorders. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But even here, you'll notice that the definitions include disruption in daily life. Your activities of daily living are affected. You are engaging in worrisome thoughts and behaviors. A worrisome behavior would be avoidance, for instance, not doing something, and or popping more pills, or monitoring yourself, or checking yourself over and over again, and high levels of anxiety. Okay, so puedes sacar a slide. Anything that you want to add, Peter, to the pain assessment? I wanted to keep it relatively brief.
I think only to reiterate that it's very important to think of pain in relative terms and to scale it and to monitor it, not as an all or none phenomenon. Because that allows you to begin to see, you know what, pain changes, pain is different, and eventually I can even influence it.
Okay. I did want to bring to the attention of the viewers, I didn't put this in the form of a slide, but there are some relatively simple pain kinds of questionnaires and functional abilities questionnaires that can be used. So I have a functional abilities checklist that I've been using for many, many years. And just to give the viewers an idea, it covers areas, it covers issues, areas of functioning such as ability to stand, ability to sit, walk, lift, carry, bend, reach for things, comb your hair, shower, turn your head, shop, clean, cook, carry a conversation, write, perform calculations, drive a car, take public transportation, perform strenuous activities. So this is something that is very useful for me in my assessments, and I have my patients rated according to a little bit, it doesn't affect me, a little bit, somewhat more difficult and very difficult. We also have pain disability questionnaires that you can rate on a scale of 0 to 10, but it's giving you specific areas. So it might be, for instance, does the pain interfere with your normal work inside and outside the home, where 0 is not at all, 10 is, you're not able to do it at all. So I don't want to belabor it, but these are some interesting areas, and I want you to be aware of your activities of daily living. What are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis?
And it shows you, it breaks it down into how many small and discrete tasks pain affects. Yeah. The smallest and the largest that affect daily living.
Well, something simple, for instance, I will ask my patients, how do you come to my office? So a patient who's been in a car accident and doesn't have a car and is not driving because he or she doesn't have a car, obviously is going to be relying either on getting rides or public transportation. Right. But there are people who have cars. Yeah. And they're not driving because maybe they're taking medication, the side effects, symptoms of the medication, or the pain prevents them from driving, and they rely on public transportation to come to my office, or they rely on getting rides, and sometimes they can't come because there isn't somebody to give them a ride. Obviously, that's an area of your functioning that's severely affected.
Transportation.
Right, transportation, not just your doctor, but, other things, shopping, taking your kids to school. These are things that are activities of daily living. Okay, what do you do in the home? Like, are you doing recreational things that you used to enjoy? Do you just lie in bed all the time? Do you sit by the window staring out? What do you do? Those are your activities of daily living. So that covers pain assessment. Por favor, Oscar, let's look at now some of the meat on the bones in terms of treatment. This is the stuff that I really think is very important to the viewers. Por favor, slide 9, treatments. Treatments and recommendations which will follow. PCP is primary care physician. Go to your primary care physician. Obviously, if you're in chronic pain, you've been doing this. But if, like, you're in pain because of a traumatic incident or something happened, or all of a sudden you're complaining of pain in your knee and you don't know where it's coming, start by going to your primary care physician. There are many specialists, pain management doctors. PT is physical therapy, OT is occupational therapy, acupuncture. Aquatherapy is doing exercises, usually supervised, or at least you get some of them in writing so you know what they look like, in a swimming pool. Swimming pool is very good because it gives you resistance and it holds your weight. It offers your body support and it gives you some resistance. Yoga, use of orthotics. Orthotics are those little apparatus, like, knee brace, ankle brace, some of the mechanical artifacts that are used to help in recovery when you have injuries. Medications, we've talked a lot about that. There are many different kinds of medications: anti-inflammatories, steroids, muscle relaxants, antidepressants, medications for anxiety. In severe cases, what we've been talking about, opioids, even medical marijuana. Marijuana is approved. There's a medical marijuana that is approved in New York. I have many patients who are on it, and they do, in fact, report that they get some benefits from it. TENS unit, that's a transcutaneous electronic nerve stimulation unit. What that does is it gives the body a little bit of an electric discharge, and the electric discharge has the effect of providing a diminution of pain. It decreases the pain.
Often through physical therapy as well. Yeah.
Spinal cord stimulator implants, which is similar to a TENS, but it's inserted inside the body. And this is something that you are regulated. Patients ordinarily, if approved, the proverbial have to get authorization, would be a trial period, and then after that, if it works well, then the doctor would request a formal implantation of it, and it can help relieve the pain by as much as maybe 50% in good cases, and cut down on the use of medication. That's some of the advantages. Surgery, when necessary, usually last resort. In some instances, you have no choice. I mean, in an emergency, you have to, you have an emergency situation, you have to have surgery. But in some cases, you have chronic back pain. You've tried physical therapy, injections, medications, it hasn't worked. You've done exercises. You're at your wit's end. The pain's getting worse. A surgical consult would probably be ordered, and the surgeon might recommend, in your case, depending on your specific surgery. And you may or may not, decide that it's a method for you. I've had patients say that they've gotten recovery from it. I've also had patients say that they haven't gotten better from it. So it's something that really requires a lot of thought and a lot of consideration. Many psychological treatments. This is Peter's and my area of expertise: psychotherapy, talk therapy with the patient, CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, modifying these false thoughts. I'm never going to get better. I'm no good. My life is shot. I am worthless. These are some thoughts that we try very hard to correct. Yes. The behaviors, being in bed all the time, not taking care of yourself, not grooming, changes in your social functioning and your activities, not going to work, limiting yourself, isolating yourself. Those are behaviors. Relaxation training. There's a host of relaxation kinds of therapies consisting of deep breathing, use of imagery, hypnosis. There's many different kinds of biofeedback. Also, you're connected to an apparatus that measures your some aspect. For instance, motor functioning is measured by a machine, and you are instructed to do a particular thing mentally in the biofeedback exercise to modify that monitor
to
decrease it, right? To learn control of your body.
Yeah.
Puede sacar el 9. Anything to add to the treatments? Because we're getting into the coping now.
With the cognitive therapy, okay, that reflects how we think about things affects the way that we feel. The way we feel can affect the experience of pain. So really identifying with each person, what is your attitude in effect about the pain that you have? If you're awfulizing and catastrophizing, you're probably going to also limit your potential for change, and you're probably going to exacerbate the experience of pain. If you start to develop coping resources and a belief that I can begin to impact the pain that I have, and my attitude is very important. If you think about it, where we experience pain, a part of our body might be injured, but the experience of pain actually occurs in the brain. That's where it registers. So in that same brain is where the thought process takes place, and it's the most direct way to try to intervene and modify the experience of pain. That then, as you were saying, frees us up to, okay, if I'm thinking better, I might feel a little bit better, I might start to do better. Maybe I get off the couch and I'm able to walk outside and just walk down the block. Maybe I go to the grocery store instead of saying, no, I don't want to bother. So it all ties together, and that's part of what treatment can begin to provide.
You have to break that pattern of chronic negative thinking and try to create a small, measurable goals so that you might contract.
Yes.
You establish a contract with your patient that, look, I know that you're not dying to do this, but you have a spouse. Your wife is really interested in you going out and doing things. So why don't you let's make an agreement that once a week you will go out with her. She'll do the driving. You go to the store and then you come back. So there's something that's step by step being done.
And it's empowering.
One slide 10.
It's empowering. The person begins to see that, you know what, I can have some control over this. I can have an effect, and I could slowly start to do more.
Yes. Ese es 11. Yes, okay. So coping with chronic pain, these are some things that, like, I just want the viewers in general to look at. Education. It's always a good thing to know something more about what your pain is, where it's coming from, what the treatments are. You can do this through the internet. You can do this through books. You can do this for professionals, your doctor, other kinds of professionals. Education. Find out more. Learn. Focus on positive things, not always the negative. Social supports, family, friends, religion, enjoyable outings, activities, light exercising. And if it's walking a block, pick it up. Movement. You need to move because otherwise you atrophy, you get worse. Monitor your diet and weight. Monitor sleep schedule. Limit alcohol intake. You have to quit smoking if you smoke. Monitor use of your medication. Even if it's prescribed, keep an eye on it. Peer support groups. There are pain groups, for instance. A doctor may recommend that you go to a particular pain group. On your own, you can find some of these things on the internet as well. Seek help as needed, medical and psychological. Organize your record. Don't leave things scattered, lying around, torn, ripped. Keep them organized. Very, very well organized. Have photocopies. The better organized you are, the better you'll be able to describe your pain and receive help. We're going to go now to the resources, which is the last slide. And I did want to mention that, we're going through really a brief expedition in chronic pain. There's obviously a lot more to be done, because we were talking before about sexual dysfunction. But there are things that can be done for the person who is in pain and feels, oh my God, I can't function because I'm in pain. Things like touching, like rubbing, like use of aromatics, candles, a little lovely fondness. I mean, I'm not going to go overboard right now, but there are strategies that can be done to help intimacy and closeness. And
medications as well.
Medications as well. So our resources here, and what I wanted to do was give you the first resource is my esteemed friend here, Dr. Peter Kanaris, who, as you know, is a doctor in psychology. He obtained his degree from Hofstra University. He's licensed in the state of New York. He has a postdoctoral fellow by Albert Ellis Institute in New York City. I got some training there, too. He's a great guy. Dr. Kanaris specializes in the evaluation and treatment of patients with acute and chronic disability, geriatrics, your senior citizens, issues of sexuality, as we've talked about. For 20 years, he has consulted in skilled nursing facilities, subacute units, helping people dealing with issues relating to pain and disability. He's been honored for his work in public education by Suffolk County Psychological Association, New York State Psychological Association. He's served as representative to many committees in Suffolk County Psych Association, New York State Psychological Association, and you're a big shot at the American Psychological Association as a representative for several years as well. So he also has directed 2 group psychotherapy practices. He currently directs Kanaris Psychological Services, PC, in Smithtown, New York. Do you have a phone number you just want to shout out?
It's 631-979-2640.
Want to repeat that?
631-979-2640.
Okay, this is Dr. Peter Kanaris' office in Smithtown, New York. Also, you see under resources here that we have New York State Psychological Association. I've given you the address, phone number, a fax number, and their website. The American Psychological Association, which is the parent of all of these state associations. I've already mentioned to viewers who may come from Texas or California or Vermont or Virginia or wherever else that are tuning into the show, that your state has a psychological association. So it could be California Psychological Association, could be New Jersey Psychological Association. Just go on the internet, you can get the number. American Pain Society, these are specialties. American Pain Society, I gave you their address, phone number, and website address. National Foundation for the Treatment of Pain, another wonderful resource for sufferers of pain. Again, I've given you address and contact information, and the American Academy of Pain Management. You're free to contact me or to contact Dr. Kanaris. The show is being recorded. Puedes sacar el slide. If you have any questions, you can contact these resources I made available. The show will be available on Tribuna TV's website, YouTube, Facebook, and if I left something out, it's out there. It's out there on the internet. So with that said, it's been really, I think, a lot for one session. Perhaps we can have more, we can have a revisiting and focusing more on maybe some specific kinds of pain or specific kinds of treatment to address particular issues, maybe children as well. That would be for another show. So with that said, my dear viewers, I wish you all the best. I hope that you're enjoying and appreciating 2020. And Dr. Peter, any last words? And we're wrapping up. Oscar here is being a bit of a pain, and we have to come to an end. That's a different kind of pain.
All I would say,
that's the pain in the neck kind of pain.
All I would say is do not despair. There is help for pain. And thank you, Roy, for having me and for the public service that you provide.
Well, thank you for being a guest, and thank Oscar. Muchas gracias por ser operador. Thank you all. I really hope you're all well and you all get something from the show. Okay, so bless Puerto Rico, and I'll see you at the next show, which probably will be dealing with hate crimes. All right. Good night.